Yo, Joburg, everybody, it's episode 222, the Playtime Diaries. I'm your host, Steve, and we've got some audio disturbances happening. Please introduce yourselves.
Well, it's Halloween here in South Africa, so I couldn't help myself but go with the Friday the 13th angle. It's Paul, being scary on Spooktober. Yay!
And Robert, joining you from Cape Town. A nice, bright, sunny morning. I hope everyone is fresh and ready to take on the day and to take on playtime with your toys and your friends if you have any around.
Yes, that's absolutely right. 2 weeks ago, I undertook to play with my toys at least for half an hour every single day. And I have been, to a lesser or greater degree, mainly to a greater degree, very successful in pulling it off. I mean, had a few interruptions and a few speed bumps, but overall, the experience has been incredible. And we're going to chronicle it in this episode. But firstly, I'd like to hang a lantern on the fact that this is the first episode where Paul and Robert are currently podcasting before 8 a.m. These two guys, while we were at JoeCon 2018, our first GI Joe convention and the last JoeCon in history, I needed to chase them multiple times to try and wake them up. Like, Paul managed to sleep through his alarm. Rob was an absolute zombie. I had to get physical with these dudes to get them out of bed. So for them to have, on their own auspices, have gotten out of bed to do this podcast, like, I fully anticipated being the only one here. Like, rock up and just blink at my avatar. So, pats on the back, gentlemen. Round of applause. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay!
We did it. We got
Well, one of the benefits to recording at this time is, so after this podcast, Celia and I can go to the park, and that's great because then I can take some toys to the park with me and take photos of them.
Fall asleep on them.
And probably fall asleep on them. Yeah, that's true. And we have got all the cool people in the chats at the moment as well. So, big props to the Bergforce for being able to join us at this time. And sorry for the time shifts. But we're just finding that happy space for us to be able to be three dudes.
Exists, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, Australia and the United States share a lot of daylight. But Australia and like anything along Greenwich Mean Time, so Europe and Africa, is a problem. So this is always going to put at least 1/3 of GI Joburg in a very uncomfortable position. But hey, man, this works for me. If you guys don't mind bright and early, neither do I. Anyways, let's not sweat time zones too much. Rob, Paul, new shit, and what are you reading, watching, or playing? Let's get these things out of the way ASAP.
Oh, hell yeah. So, by the time you get to watch this episode, you may or may not have already watched my most recent unboxing video. I received a very hearty box of goodies from MCDJ ACDC. And thank you again, dude. So that arrived this past week. I also decided I was going to ship stuff that I've had sitting in BBTS that was in my private warehouse that had like 2 days left to ship. So I kind of got a lot of new toys to talk about. So I think what I'm going to do is with the box of MacDJ, guys, check out the video if you haven't already. And then maybe I'll just speak about each one of those toys for the next 3 or 4 weeks. I think that might be the easiest thing to do. Because technically I'll only be opening them as I use them for reviews. So my goal is to free them from their cardboard and plastic prisons, but to incentivize doing reviews, I'm keeping them sealed so that I can have the whole experience for our viewers. So let's just say I got 3 new things this past week. The first one is I got a Transformers Kingdom Soundwave. I got one of those little ones, which has been sitting in my private warehouse for, I think, well, as soon as it came out, which was probably about, 80 days ago or 60 days ago or whatever. What a cool little toy, though. Oh, my word. It's like a little GI Joe-sized Soundwave. and he transforms into like a little Cybertronian style boombox, the one that we're all familiar with. It's kind of Cybertronian, I suppose. It's weird. It's not really a Walkman or a boombox, but it's got like a play button and a fast forward and all that good stuff. Anyway, what's important is its chest actually does open, and it does have a laser beak in tape form, which is pretty rad. Like, it's just a really great little transformer. It's awesome. And then the other, well, I suppose we should start playing the Joburg music. The Scareglow and Trapjaw are now part of my collection, and have been added to the ranks of my Joburg figures. Did I just say Joburg? Wow, it is early. To my Masters of the Universe He-Man collection. Scareglow is awesome, dude. It's totally worth the hype. You forget how much fun glow-in-the-dark stuff actually is. So you can like charge him with like your cell phone light, with your cell phone flashlight, just charge up the head, and then like set him up, and then you've got like a figure that's like partially glowing in the dark, and it's quite atmospheric. I gotta say, it's been quite a bit of fun playing with old Scareglow. And then Trapjaw is great. He's kind of like the battle android trooper of He-Man figures. Well, I suppose Roboto technically is, but Trapjaw is just a little bit more fun, with his little mouth and the interchangeable weapons on his right arm, and the articulation is just fantastic. So got some He-Man toys and the battle android trooper, and I suppose I'm allowed to mention this now because I have revealed it in the unboxing, and it's one of the first ones that I did open, so that review is coming, well, hopefully in the next day or two, because I'm shooting the rest of the photography for today. But I got a Cobra Infantry from GI Joe Classified. Very cool. Very
awesome.
cool. Yeah, they're quite rad. I mean, I've got one or two little issues with it. I got two, actually, which was like a major surprise. I mean, MCD, you are mad, and it's just so cool of you to throw all of this good stuff in this box. And man, yeah, classified. The classified love is returning to me, I must say. Also got a very cool bunch of stuff coming from Ryan, hopefully in the next week or so. I sent it off yesterday, actually, from the warehouse in the States. So that's got some very cool stuff in it, and it's all classified Joes. And yeah, so I decided I'm going to do all these cool classified reviews, and the first one's going to be this Cobra Infantry. When you you have classified toys in hand, it makes a difference. And yeah, the Cobra Infantry really is a great toy. It's got some like one or two little irritating things to it, but all classified figures do, and they all seem to have the same problem. So I don't want to like bring this toy down with that, but wow, man, all the good stuff, the sculpt on this guy, just the proportion of him, the weapons, although not realistic, are very cool weapons. The fact that it keeps all of its gear together, it's great, man. And it looks so cool when you got them both posed with your Baroness or with your Cobra Commander or something. It looks like an entourage. It's a great toy. I've been having a lot of fun with it since I opened it yesterday, actually. So anyway, that's enough new shit from Paul. What did you guys get?
Well, I haven't received anything new, but I don't know if I've mentioned before, but I've started watching Cowboy Bebop, the anime, on Netflix.
So good.
It's amazing. It's so cool to be able to watch it again after so many years. And ahead of the release of the live-action one, which they finally released a trailer that actually makes me think it's not going to be bad. Because
that's
everything
how I feel.
Has made me kind of feel like, ooh, it doesn't look like it's going to be good, But like that trailer that they just came out with was fantastic. I was just like, this feels like Cowboy Bebop. And yeah, I'm actually super excited to keep going with the anime and check out the actual live action. Otherwise, I'm still watching Star Trek The Next Generation. I'm currently on season 3. I've just started the episode Who Watches the Watchers. It's kind of like a weird episode where these people kind of like worship Picard. it's really strange. The Picard saved me, and I'm alive, and we must do what the Picard wants us to do. Yeah. Otherwise, yeah, nothing new. But that's what's been keeping me busy this week. Stephen, do you have anything new? Do you have another Outback that you want to tell us about?
Well, I don't have to get into my new shit because Hasbro has provided for us. It would appear
Interesting.
we have several new things to talk about, boys. I'm gonna knock the Cobra Officer out first, since it segues nicely with your recent acquisitions, Paul. Any
Yay.
love for the Cobra Officer?
Oh, dude, I've got lots of love for the Cobra Universe, for the Cobra Office. It's basically this awesome Cobra infantry figure, which I'm holding in my hands as we're speaking right now, but with actual real guns. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, just that's the first thing that elevates it immediately. That and you know, it's gotta look. There's something to it. I think they've also changed some of the armor a little bit. But yeah, it's looking cool, man. What are your thoughts?
It's a handsome-looking figure. It's certainly, a subtle one of the releases. I can see why they didn't drum up all the kind of same fanfare that they had for Crocmaster, for the Bats, for Tiger Force Outback. This is a subtle but absolutely essential figure. It will look good next to the Cobra Trooper standard release, and fortunately gives you enough weapons options so that you can have one officer and divvy out his accoutrement, his accessories, out to the guys that were wielding Nerf guns. So everybody's a winner. The magazines on his Kalashnikov are removable. It's amazing. I'm
really like
not
that
sure what they did with the backpack, but yeah, it holsters the weapon. Sorry, I'm failing to get the other images that I had. They don't seem to be JPEGs, so I can't open them. Anyways, bottom line, wonderful, wonderful figure, but definitely not the belle of the ball, because we knew it was coming. It's the worst kept secret in the world, but it's the Alley-Viper, and
The Alley-Viper is so good.
Even with his
keep
small
making-
head.
They keep making
Oh,
more figures
dear.
that I keep
Shots
thinking, like,
fired.
this is the figure I want to get.
Really?
I still- I
Are
keep
you-
thinking that. I don't like it classified. It's not the right scale. But then they keep coming out with some cool figures, and I think the Alley-Viper looks absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so my I'm very happy that you love the Alley-Viper, Rob. And I think that's actually a very good sign, because I want to love it. I want to love it. I think on paper it's got a lot of really great stuff happening for it. And I'm always scared of like sharing my thoughts on the podcast sometimes with a toy, because I'm worried that I make people, when you talk about stuff with some kind of, I don't want to say authority, but let's just say almost authority, it kind of gets people stuck on that, like when you watch other YouTube videos, or you listen to other podcasts and they mention something about a figure, or, if you spend some time with Steven talking about a toy.
I no longer... No, Paul, I no longer have my own opinions. I literally go to like 5 or 6 other sources and I just parrot what they've been saying, because that's basically what the internet is for. It's for people feeding you your opinion, and we are
Right?
doing it right now. We are extending this notion that now you can just latch on to like-minded individuals and they can do the talking for you. Absolutely, I'm a firm believer of that.
So with that all said, I'm just disappointed that he's got a small head. It really upsets me. I just feel like if he's wearing a helmet, it should just be a bit bigger, and it would look just a little bit cooler with a bigger head. And if I can get my hands on an Alley-Viper, I'm gonna probably remove the blue on the visor. But that's like literally the main thing that bugs me. It's like, I love the color. I love that they didn't try to make it realistic or anything dumb, you know? I dig that it's orange. I mean, that's what an Alley-Viper should look like. And I think it's cool that it's got like a computer screen in the shield, which is completely unexpected. I think that's a really niche feature. Love the weapons though. Oh my word. It's so cool to have like those guns. And that's the benefit of something like that, you know, like you're going to get this awesome Alley-Viper. And I'm pretty sure, like, listen, I can say with some authority that when I get one of these, and I'm saying it's more when rather than if, when I get one of these, I've got a feeling that in hand, I'm going to fall in love with it, because I don't know what it is, but sometimes the photography on these toys is amazing and you know exactly what you're getting, and sometimes not so much. And I feel like there's nothing wrong with any of the shots here. Like there, with the visor open, it looks awesome. And that's weird for me to say because I'm normally a visor down guy for Alley-Vipers. So, yeah, so in these shots, I feel like, okay, cool. We got like, I've got my niggly things, the things that bug me. But I know that in hand that might change. I can definitely say that about Flint and Lady J. I'm just looking at them in the box. The proportions, there's something about seeing them in the reel that you go, oh wow, these are actually a lot slimmer and a lot neater than I initially felt they were when I saw them on the pictures. So I'm still open to this figure like really blowing me away. But the
gear
bat
is the ultimate realization. I mean, you sort of gushed about the guns. Well, they deserve just a little bit closer look under the microscope. Like, not only is the grapple hook launcher removable by the looks of things, but they've incorporated the feature from the 1989 original, which is that the hook is well, in 1989 it was inexplicable that was a separate molded piece. That was just asking for trouble. But now you can string it up. Like there's an eye on the neck of the grapple gun, which no doubt you could rope, to the hook and actually have a functional like pose set up. You could have him dangling from this thing, or better yet, run it through the snap links on his belt for like
he's got carabiners.
Exactly, like a fast rope descent. He can be like clambering down a wall or smashing through a window. Defenestration, as Larry Harmer taught me.
I love that word.
Shield, very much a level up by having the shield now have a readout. Yes, the shield, as you all know, has this kind of targeting readout on the back of it. So there's a lot of tech in what, on the face of it, just looks like, urban pacification. This guy's got all the toys Mars has to offer.
And by painting over those, because I think his legs are the same Viper legs that they've been using. So the inner thighs have those patches, which are on the wrong side. But by painting it the same color, you can't actually see that. I think in this shot especially, you can see the patches there.
Yeah, it's at least 50% less irritating. I agree.
Exactly. It's just like chafing protection, between his legs. So when he abseils or something.
Ooh,
when he's making Joe his bitch, taking him for a hard ride.
Now there's a classified toy I cannot wait for. Is the Viper.
Hard ride.
not hard ride.
GI Joe's bitch.
No, the Cobra Viper is something I'm very excited about.
Get out there, hard ride.
Hard ride. I had an idea. It's funny that we joke about this because I kind of got an idea for a future topic that I want to spring on you guys, and it has got a lot to do with code names, and I'm just seeing somebody come up with a hard ride. Oh god. Anyway, guys,
it
also
live on GI.
It happened live. It happened here. Also, just as of this morning, checking out Facebook quickly, I see Ryan has been having, and that's Ryan Sweeney. For those of you who don't know who I'm referring to, he's been rocking his barbecue figure. His barbecue, and it looks cool, man. That looks like a lot of fun. So power to you, Ryan. Sorry, I just sort of saw that now. I was actually looking for other images for the podcast, and I was like, wow, barbecue is doing the thing. And how do you guys feel about the bat? I mean, now that we're actually seeing the bat in the proper deco, unless
I think it's still amazing. It looks really good. Good job,
I was,
bro.
yeah, guys, it's the weirdest thing about a rig color. It's like I'm down with the when I say I'm down with the Python Patrol, I'm like, okay, cool, you know, it looks decent. Like, you know, I don't want to poo-poo it, but seeing it in the original deco, and it just wow, I love the modern era, I love the vintage, and they've knocked it out of the park with the classified. So, wow, it looks like Bat is consistently good throughout each era of GI Joe. So, wow. Yeah, no,
Smart move, leading with a exclusive and a repaint, because obviously everyone would just pounce on the original. So by delaying that and sort of sending us the Target exclusive Python Patrol version, yeah, that's how you move product, basically. You get rid of
exactly.
the undesirable one first. And look, that's an unfair thing to say. It's not undesirable, but next to the OG colors and this new Python Patrol, I shudder to think anyone would pick the Python Patrol over the OG.
Yeah, I suppose.
So as being my kind of Joe fan, just like the counterculture guy who's like, yeah, Eco Warriors are the best sub team. Yeah, I see you.
Wow, yeah.
Enough said. Oh, guys, the cops.
Ooh, they're coming for you.
Well, the disadvantages of podcasting in the afternoon in my particular area, yeah,
That's
ambulances,
when all the criminals are active.
ambos,
Ambos.
the cops,
Hey,
the guys
just
with the V8s on their Sunday afternoon ride, and the bird life. My goodness, man.
Oh yeah.
So,
Speaking of
Paul
bird
knows all
life.
about that.
Yeah. Guys, I just want to swing it back to this Cobra series, to the classified Cobra Officer quickly. There's something I forgot to mention with this. The Cobra infantry that we got is very good, and it's a great almost like modern rendition of the Cobra trooper that we know and love. You know, he's got all of the modern sort of boxes ticked. The armor has got all of this interesting detail that makes it look like some kind of futuristic bulletproof vest, and all of that good stuff. But looking at the Cobra Officer, it does actually lean more into its classic roots. Yes, you've got this great armor plate on him, and he does look like he could, like he's more robust in some respects than the infantryman. But he's definitely got more of that classic edge going for him. And I see there's one thing that they've fixed on here that is also worth mentioning. I don't know if it's so much fixed, but it does stand out, is his knife sheath is no longer on his left breast sort of like strap on his webbing. And I know, like, just having a brief conversation with Mr. Bart Simon yesterday about some placements of the holsters and things like that on these guys. It seems like, he mentioned the annoyance of that knife being there. Steve, I know that you've had irritations with certain placements of knife sheaths on the modern era Joes at one stage as well. And it's good that, I think it's a good move that Hasbro actually removed that. I think Hasbro definitely listened to a lot of the toy reviews for the original Cobra infantry, and I think there was quite a lot of uniformity, not uniformity, but I think there was a global voice there in having that removed. Anyway, it was worth mentioning because this is more of your classic Cobra Trooper, and it looks great. I do sort of miss the Sub-Zero looking mask in favor of the sort of bandana across the face. But anyway, whatever. Just wanted to swing that by quickly and get some like last minute thoughts on that. Sweet. Yay. Also watch Dune. Okay.
Yeah, look, I ducked out of the podcast early last session. I don't know if you recall, but I did catch it in the edit, and you got me salivating for Dune. Unfortunately, my cinema's only getting it on the 2nd of December.
Oh my word.
Yeah, hell. gone are the days of global releases, guys. It seems, it came out in Europe about a month ago. It's come out in the rest of the world, Australia included, now. But yeah, my shit kicker town doesn't have it until December. Anyways, it gets your recommendation, and why should it not? It's reimagining of a classic, and in the right hands. What is it
Damn
with
right.
Villeneuve and doing right by 1980s turkeys? Yes, I said it, ladies and gentlemen. Dune and Blade Runner are tough for me to sit through.
The original well, I don't want to say the original 1980s movie is a whole different creature. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think I've sat through it once. I mean, I like the toys a lot more. I think Steven's brother actually got a whole bunch of the original Dune toys.
So
And
cool.
actually, they're pretty decent.
Guys-
I've been corrected in the chats. Darren, our local yokel, Mr. Australia, has corrected me. Yeah, it looks like it's a national release in December. I guess the guys who I listen to on the Weekly Planets must be using a VPN to watch it via HBO Max. That's it. Those bastards. Always ahead of the curve. Anyways, shall we? Shall we do it? The main event, gents. Are you ready?
I'm
so
ready. Yeah. Like, so just before we get there, and my brain is just a little bit foggy this morning. Okay, it is very early in the morning. Guys, I'm just curious. Hasbro Pulse has been doing all kinds of mad stuff lately. I mean, we just briefly touched on the Alley-Viper and the Bat and our excitement with that from PulseCon, but there's something else that I have a huge fondness for that Hasbro just recently announced. And that is a proton pack from Ghostbusters. It's coming at a very fair $399. It is just a pack. They've added a lot of stretch goals and whatever's to it. It only needs to get 6,000 guys to vote for it. So, I don't know. I can't understand the economy there. Like, I think Hasbro should have just... I don't know. Doesn't that seem weird that like the Sky Striker needs 10,000 backers and it's cheaper, whereas the Proton Pack that's more expensive makes six. And anyway, it's kind of making more sense now. But at the same time, Ghostbusters is a much bigger and more popular franchise in a lot of respects, especially because it's got what appears to be a good movie coming down the pipe. So I'm kind of looking at that and thinking about getting one, because if you guys remember...
What makes you feel Afterlife is expected to be a good movie? I don't know. What are you basing this on, Paul? I'm going to call you out.
The trailer seems to capture a lot of the spirit of what Ghostbusters is. It's not, and it's ticking a lot of the right boxes. And there's been a lot of early screenings for fans, and a lot of guys have been talking about how it actually is the Ghostbusters movie we want. And they were very smart with that. Sony was very clever there to get select groups of fans to be able to watch that film a month or two in advance, ahead of its scheduled release, to sort of see, how popular and how well it's going to do in the eyes of fans. And a lot of fans are raving about it. It's the world, right? Not everybody's unanimous in that, but I see the general consensus is that this is the Ghostbusters film we've been waiting 20 years for. So,
And as regards the Hasbro Pulse kind of onslaught, I mean, we've definitely seen a case of the Empire Strikes Back. Like, Big Daddy Hasbro are all too aware of these independents with their Kickstarters eating Hasbro's lunch. So they are the IP holders of most of these properties. And yeah, they're gonna ride that cow, milk it to death. So yeah, Proton Pack, Sky Striker, but something occurred to me, and this is the genius of the bunch at Skeletron, who are doing their RoboSkull, and
so cool.
who have managed to get it to span at least 2 scales. There's a third scale, but that's neither here nor there. Basically, the 2 hot scales, the old guard 3 3/4 inch or 4-inch scale, and then the current New Royal Highness, the 6-inch scale. Their RoboSkull is compatible with both. And all of a sudden, I think the big boys are going to need to play catch up, because it occurred to me that while the Sky Striker is all very fine and well, it's catering to a finite number of collectors, a very vocal number of collectors, and we're about to find out exactly how many of them there are in terms of raw numbers. This Kickstarter will be a very, very good acid test to find out how many fans of O-Ring Joe actually exist and are prepared to vote with their dollars. But if they had done a project that could span 2 scales, home run. Think about this. A 6-inch scaled HISS tank, so that at 6 inches, it is the bog standard HISS tank, and you can put 1 figure in the cockpit, 1 figure in the gun, and 2 riding the back sill. But you have an interchangeable cockpit area that once you switch it out, you can fit 3 4-inch figs. And the
That would be
turret
cool.
all of a sudden becomes a comm station. And you pull the turret out, and you can fit guys into the belly of the craft. Maybe even a back gate or a hatch that opens to further access seating down there. And all of a sudden, you've got a vehicle that is not only essential to both 6-inch collectors and 4-inch collectors, but something that most likely people want to have multiples of so that they can have them in both configurations. Because let's face it, if you've got a 6-inch display, it's purely a 6-inch display. You're not going to, unless you're focusing on specific characters, and you're like, this is my Zartan corner, and I've got my Sideshow Zartan, I've got my movie Zartan, and I've got my classified Zartan, I've got my SDCC Zartan, whatever. You know, unless you're character specific, you are going to dedicate one display area to one scale and another display area to another scale. So that's 2 HISS tanks at least that you've sold to collectors of both scales. And you definitely have sold them to both the 4-inch fans and the 6-inch fans, because everyone who is a watcher of the cartoon knows that on occasion you had these kind of like juggernaut size HISS tanks. You know, these battlefield like nerve centers that would house multiple troops and had multiple turrets sticking out of them. Forgive me if anyone can hear the guy next door using bloody power tools on a Sunday afternoon. How dare you? But we're just gonna have to deal with that. New time and all. Anyways, that's where I rest my case on like how it's nice to have the ultimate realization of the Sky Striker, but there's so much more that could be done in this vein.
I feel you on that. Also, like Ryan brings up that they don't have the neutrino wand, which will be an additional 160. I know that currently Spengler's wand was available on BBTS for 120. I know because I was sort of passively eyeing it out over the last few months. They sold out now ever since the announcement of the Proton Pack, and that the hose is a stretch goal, and that's a bit like, that is a bit cheeky. And there's a part of me that still would like to build a pack, perhaps, and see how far I could get with that. Not that I'm not trying to be like one of those snobs that's like, oh, I'm sure I can build a better pack and blah blah blah. It's just, there are some elements to the HasLab version that are putting me off. And one of the biggest things that's sort of putting me off getting it is it's got a cutoff date for the 14th of December for $399. I would still really like to. My intention is to get a Robo Skull. I nearly called it a Skeletron. Is to get Skeletron's Robo Skull. I really want to back that monster up. I think it's such a cool looking toy. Never mind the fact that we're just supporting a cool toy company. I just love that thing. It's really awesome, and it keeps growing on me even more, which is something I didn't expect. And maybe somehow it would be cool if we could also grab a Sky Striker, and now it becomes a thing of, well, we could try and get a Sky Striker and a Robo Skull or a Proton Pack. And I feel like, the Robo Skull and the Sky Striker would serve us better. And I know that, like, as a fan of those things, in 5 years' time, I'll look back and be like, I'm glad that I got the Sky Striker and the Robo Skull. Especially when I see, like Sky Strikers online for like probably like $900 because it's a HasLab exclusive. And you know, by that time I may have actually bought a really cool looking proton pack as well. So there is that side of the argument as well. And also, just on the topic of the Roboskull, did you guys catch Jason Mewes, aka Jay from Jay and Silent Bob fame? He did like a little bit of an appraisal of the Roboskull, I think is the best way to put it. He's awesome. He's just like, he's so into it. If you guys haven't checked it out, it is doing its rounds on YouTube and on Facebook and whatnot. It's really cool. Yeah, he geeks out.
It's your stamp of approval. I mean, I know like Kevin Smith is it's a bit of a Marmite character these days. You either love him or you hate him. And Jason's obviously irrevocably linked to Kevin through the View Askew films. So yeah, if he's hyping a toy and you're loving it, that's cool. I'll drop that link in the description below.
Nice.
Snoochie boochies. But yeah, Steve, I think you wanted to talk about our Toy Diaries.
Well, I'm going to kick the mic over to our buddy Rob initially, for the simple reason that this process prompted me to remember maybe a conversation that we had, or at least an agreement, or at least a kind of an optimal time of day for gaming. Do you remember, Rob? Like, what would you say is the best time of day to start playing with toys?
I think, if I'm trying to remember correctly, but I think it's usually like about sundown, because you can kind of have like the afternoon light. You kind of do like afternoon type battle type things, and you can kind of go into evening, and then you play out nighttime stuff. Because I think having different times, or at least different lightings for your playtime, is actually pretty awesome. I mean, I know most of the time we ended up playing in the middle of the night, like midnight and later. But I think transitioning from like light into dark, I think that's what we decided back then. Well, that feels kind of right to me now.
Yeah, man, heartily agreed. It seemed like that was the sweet spot. Elle would come around, we'd faff for a bit in the afternoons, we'd finally get into the zone by about 5:30, 6 p.m., play for an hour and a half in that golden hour, very cinematic, very evocative stuff, like getting into position, and then it would be supper time. And more often than not, like, my folks had enough food for the three of us, so we'd have a hearty meal, and then it was night, and then it was time to light the fires and kick the tires. It was action stations. And we'd use a mixture of lighting to kind of create the environment, be it torchlight, be it lamplight. Sometimes we'd light candles. Just to get that added level of atmosphere. Like, nothing like a flickering flame to just add that next level of ambience. Be it a zombie kind of adventure, or just like a nomadic unit that are lighting fires for cooking or for warmth, and we're sneaking up on them in these kind of moving, shifting amber shadows and light. Yeah, no, it's good. Tim Wild's got a great question in the comments. Welcome to the show, Tim. Lol, how many weapons were lost due to finding the right ambience for your playtime? We became like accountants with our weapons. Like, we would have a tally, and this is also something that we were quite hung up on as well. We had little containers which we fit all our necessary gear in. They were Playmobil boxes, actually. And do you know, Rob, that to this day, that Playmobil sculpt is still you can still get them?
What? That's wild.
I got one as recently as last year for my birthday with my DeLorean, with my time machine.
Cool.
Of course, the stickers don't say Praparet or what was it? Ngorogoro, Expedition Gorogoro, as the classic cases did. But yeah, those silver hinged, snap together cases are still available. Incredible.
It's like a bit of a lunchboxy type vibe, if memory serves.
Absolutely that, with a handle on either side, which you dare not use an O-ring figure to try and handle, because that shit is specifically designed for Playmobil figures. Anyways, I remember like we would jam our handguns, our sort of small accessories, binoculars, whatever, in those boxes, and just have our primaries in our figures' hands. So we'd swap them out as needs be. And you'd make sure that, yeah, your final tally always matched. Like, yes, I had 2 knives, 2 pistols, I had a silencer, I had a radio. That's what was in my case. And you check that shit after.
It most of the time, I mean, it was, what we were doing was memorable enough in the moment that even if you lost something and we come at the end of the night and see, you still have an idea of where you used it, you know? Like, oh, yeah, I remember I took the knife out and I stabbed that dude on top of the fire and he burned to death. And it's like,
do you remember having to retrace our... Do you remember having to retrace our steps? I think I was a bit of a stickler in that if something did go wrong, something did fall through the cracks or into the grass, like that's where we paused the game. We stopped.
Yeah, you had to find it straight away.
Yeah, well, we didn't resume until we accounted for it. So yeah, things did get lost, but more often than not, we managed to find them.
Very cool. Yeah, we Dave was the accountant on that one for us when we were kids. We were very specific, and they were inside weapons and they were outside weapons. Outside weapons, mostly core stuff.
But that's actually a smart way of doing it as well. You only play with the stuff you don't mind losing outside.
Well, look, we got even smarter at one point, Rob. We just didn't put weapons in the guy's hands, and that actually came back in my own playtimes over the past 2 weeks, because you find that when you're alone and there's no one else to kind of put on appearances for you, a lot of the game happens in your mind. So there's a lot of shorthand that you allow yourself to use.
Yeah, man.
Paul, how do you want to break this down, dude? Do you want to do a day-to-day, blow-by-blow?
I would love to do that, but I've the last month has been a bit of a whirlwind. So I've been doing this sort of overarching story. Personally, I've just been doing this story that's just been simple to kind of do, and what my playtime was actually just a way for me to unwind from my work stuff. It was also kind of, I would say, a good and a bad thing that we had load shedding this past week, and not just load shedding. We had stage 4 load shedding, so it was basically 2 hours on and then 2 hours off, and that would happen 3 times a day. So yeah, just to unwind, I was just kind of grabbing my 3 or my 4 core characters and just sort of just filling stuff in. So I don't really have a daily log of them. I kind of know where they sort of are in the story, because the days kind of blurred a little bit into each other last week for me. So for me, I would prefer to do an overview, but I feel like you kind of got a bit of a day-by-day thing going.
Which is why I think I'll round us off. So, Paul, why don't you give us your overarching?
Cool. Okay, so something what happens is that, well, okay, this is guys, I mean, this is going to sound so haphazard, okay? But anyway, on my desk, I've had this, I took out Dusty, and then the other day I brought the camel, desert camel, from my folks' place here. And so this is really inspired a bit of a Dusty story. So what's been happening is there's this group that's moving around some, I don't want to say it's a village in a desert country. I'm just gonna call it it's some Saharan country. I don't even have a name for it. And there's a lot of interesting movement there. And Dial Tone has been picking up weird chatter, through the dark web and whatever's. And he sort of taps into Dusty to just sort of go and monitor the situation. And then we find out that it's actually the Dreadnoks. The Dreadnoks are operating in Saharan Africa. I know, it's crazy. And they sort of moving they're just they're just causing a little bit of havoc, but they're not really messing the town around. They're just sort of supervising these deliveries that are going down. So obviously Dusty's intrigued. So he's been investigating that and trying to get in there, but he doesn't realize that and Dial Tone doesn't realize this either, but Chuckles has been undercover in that like whole smuggling operation. And basically what's been happening is that these guys, it's actually not Cobra. It's another faction that's actually hired the Dreadnoks to move their stuff around. And unfortunately, I don't have toys for these guys, so that's all been like played in my head. But Chuckles somehow gets himself into a really, really bad situation, and he's just really lucky that Dial Tone happened to pick up on that chatter. And so Dusty is sort of on a mission to go and rescue Chuckles from these smugglers. And it's sort of, in my mind, it's playing over like the span of 12 hours. So it's very hard to get any other GI Joe reinforcement, because it's going to take them, at least like 10 to 12 hours to get Joes into that country. So yeah, it's a solo mission for Dusty. So it's kind of Metal Gear Solid-esque as well. And I've been having lots of fun with like Dusty on the camel, and like he's like moving around, and he looks like a what's a good word for? He just looks like somebody that's part of the desert. Like he's one of the locals. He's dressed up and he's disguised, and he's slowly trying to infiltrate this group. But he knows he suspects that the Dreadnoks might recognize him, and so I've just been like having fun with that. And now where we're currently at is the Cobra have sort of surprised Cobra have revealed themselves, and they have Chuckles on file. They know who to look for, and now they've actually captured him. They've taken him from that smuggling group, and now they've sort of guarding him. So now Dusty is trying to sneak around to try and save Chuckles without Chuckles getting his brains blown out, because Chuckles is kind of tied down. He's like, and he's being interrogated and all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I know it's not terribly exciting, but it's been a lot of fun for me to like play with Desert Camel.
I got questions, man. Well, firstly,
cool, man.
Like at the outset, it sounded like you might have been doing a prelude to Blazing Sand, because it does open with Dusty on the run from like 3 Dreadnoks in two. Yeah, it's Ripper
that's correct,
and Buzzer. They're in pursuit. So like the prelude to that, in my mind at least, is that yes, Dusty was in country, and he's doing some desert, human intel. He's combing the desert. He's picking up signs of passage and movement of men and equipment. And the Dreadnoks have been sent out to just quietly put him down, quite discreetly. And that's where Dusty jumps in the Ore Striker and Crankcase burns it. They call in the Tomahawk, and the game is afoot. Watch Blazing Sands to find out what happens next.
That's so cool. I wonder why
you're taking it in a new direction, and that's interesting. It's become like a Chuckles, find the mole and interrogate him kind of situation. My follow-up question though for you is, did you act out the scenes? Do you have sequences of like Dusty on the camel trekking through the desert, like just like his inner monologue, or is he quite stoic and silent the whole time? Just like, is this basically like No Country for Old Men? There's long drawn out scenes of just silence. Josh Brolin through the desert.
It's a bit of a mix of that, because I also wanted him like in my mind, and I think this is also a little bit Dune inspired now because of seeing Arrakis. But yeah, I just have him trekking through the desert and thinking about stuff like, okay, cool. I got to be careful. I got to watch out with my water. Got to watch out with like, I'm moving through the day too much here, and got to stay out of their eye line and stay behind certain dunes. And I've had him like have that kind of inner monologue, but at the same time he's like, oh gee, like when he realizes that one of his own, or one of that Chuckles is actually in trouble, then it changes everything up for him, because now he's like, the slow sort of approach that he wanted to use is now kind of been destroyed. In fact, I think at one point I was considering using a vehicle for him, and I just don't have any cool vehicles for Dusty that I could use for the scenario here at the house, and that's actually why I ended up using.
Right. I was going to say you've got the FOE striker, but now you're spread
It's
over
at-
2 different houses.
Yeah, it's at my folks' place. So
That's
Desert
right.
Camel, it is. It's actually quite funny because Celia gets home, and he's on the kitchen counter, because I was sort of just like, in different points in the house, I would pick up this toy and play with it. And she gets home and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know you had a camel toy," because there's like Dusty on the camel.
And I
And
didn't
it
know
looks
you had a camel toe. Oh.
Oh, it's such a cool, it's actually a lot of fun. I've really been enjoying that Desert Camel.
Dude, the animal companions, man, for the win. Like, I think that is the biggest takeaway from the PulseCon, is that
Yo.
like how much an animal enhances an action figure's appeal. Like, how many times have you heard in recent comments threads like, "Oh, I didn't think anything of Crocmaster, but that crocodile, like that is a selling point. Gotta have that croc, gotta have that croc." So smart move. And yeah, man, just like taking it back to a technology, or not even a technology, a beast of burden. Like, Dusty all of a sudden becomes this ancient warrior. It's a very cool and evocative image. So I totally get that, Paul. My next question is, how many hours of game time do you think you've put in?
I would say probably, to be fair, I think I put in a good 2-3 hours, and that's just messing around, because I also sort of toyed around with the sequence, and it's weird. It's like it's part of the story, but it kind of happened before the story did, which is kind of what inspired the story. Was Celia and I went to the park on my birthday last weekend, and actually, because we spoke about this even before my birthday happened. So I had the Cobra Claw, and that's been bringing me a lot of joy. So I took the Cobra Claw and Chuckles with me to the park, and I was flying it around the park and just having fun with it. And Celia also actually was like, "Oh, can I fly that around?" And I was like, "Totally, go for it." And I actually got some pictures of that.
I like the fact that Darren, I mean, because of all the talk of Dune and Dusty being, well, Dusty Atreides almost, the fact that Darren says that Dusty needs a thopter, and I presume he means an ornithopter.
On the top there, yeah.
To which I replied, at least a trike. Now, the trike from the Dune 2 top-down role player.
From the game,
like those things always to me look like the GI Joe motorized vehicle pack, the ATV. And the ATV has those like gray balloon tires that also evoke like the Harvester from the Dune movie. Like, there's all these kind of associations that I had in my child brain. Anyways, Paul, you are showing us incredible images of your missus playing in the park with your claw.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's awesome. And I didn't even go, take the she's just like, "Oh, I want to try and fly it around," because I was making whoosh whoosh sounds with it as we're walking around. She's like, "I want to try that." And yeah, she had fun.
Next time shoot some video, please, because
I will
come
do.
on, Paul, come on.
I got you. I know, it's just, I know that we kind of spoke about, it's not, I felt like I took the photos more because I was like, "Oh my god, she's playing with toys," rather than, trying to capture it too much.
I make this argument all the time to Kim, like, why take stills when you can just shoot video? And the capacities of our mobile phones these days are so epic. Well, they should be. Unless you've got it crowded with PlayMotion videos already and footage. But anyways, you've got so much time to shoot, hours and hours worth of memory to shoot video. Just do that. And if you really want to capture the moment, you can select a still from that video. But yeah, motion is now so cheap, whereas it used to be like you needed a special camera and you needed a tape, and you needed to then convert the tape into a cassette, and so easy, so instant. And
I
then
just
you can
think
make TikTok vids. Yeah.
But I just like the simplicity of photographs sometimes, because a single photograph can have a before and after to it that isn't shown but maybe implied,
But getting that exact moment can sometimes be
That can be troublesome,
nigh
yeah.
impossible. Yeah. Whereas if you
Because
shoot
that's the
every
art,
year,
right? Yeah.
you can select. You've got so much to choose from. Anyways, it's maddening. You can go round and round in circles because, like, it occupies that much more time to then edit. But hey,
But yeah.
but that's how I roll. Shoot me.
So yeah, so currently Chuckles is a hostage and Dusty's on the way to rescue him, and
Wait, I don't
there's a
think we have your total runtime. I mean, I know you've been broken up in terms of how often you've been able to play, but
yeah, I'd say it's about like I said, about 2-3 hours, and then I don't know
Solid
if you
number.
guys do this, but I sometimes what helps me go to sleep is I will play a narrative in my head for like a story or an idea. It's actually like I'll lie down
all
and
the
I'll
time.
think, yeah. So and that's also what I've been doing. I've been taking those characters in my head. So Dusty's been on my bedside table, um, next
Rob,
to
I know
Scareglow.
your current situation is not necessarily conducive to playing. Like you're very much like after dark, you kind of are limited by access to a space to play in.
Hmm.
But what Paul's just mentioned, like just taking your mind on these flights of fancy, is that something that you've been able to do? Like play out how you would like a game to go?
I
Oh
think so.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. I mean, that's how I do a lot of my like story design for anything that I do. Actually, I really like to just
And
think
where
about
has your
it.
mind taken you, Robbie?
I wish I could go to the beach. I mean, I in general I don't like going to the beach, but I think it has been sand as well. Weirdly enough,
Ooh,
I think we're all very much obsessed with sand right now. I think Paul, his glowing review of Dune has kind of like sat on my mind. I think like yeah, a cool beach sequence would be really cool. Just taking I suppose the hurricane out there and sort of attacking a couple of Joe emplacements. Um, because it could actually take like the 90s HQ and just plop it on a beach somewhere and have it be attacked by a bunch of cobra things. I think that was one of the ones that I kind of fell asleep to the one night.
nice. So perhaps images of our, not too distant past, come flooding back because, yeah, Atlantis Factor was very much filmed around the coastline.
Yeah, it
Um,
was the last thing the last big thing that we did together as well. So I think sand holds us together, despite being so rough and
Loose. It
loose and
gets
getting in
everywhere.
everywhere.
Do you hate it? Oh
I hate it
dear.
so much, but I love the
Goodness.
memories that have been made with it. So
Cool.
it's a double-edged pebble of sand.
Nice. So your game ideas are very much focused on action. Good
I think
stuff.
so. In general, so far, I think the
Just
action
that
kind of
visual of like a
just tires me
hurricane
out
streaking
faster.
down. Hmm. True that. Yeah. Well, would there be build up? Would you build up on the Cobra side, like Vapor, doing his last minute checks, pre-flights, his walk around, checking this jet and mouthing off to his ground staff before boarding it and tearing off into the sky? Or would you play the GI Joe point of view, like they're prepping for something big coming in? They know they have to defend this territory at all costs. That might be in vain.
Well, the thing with playtime is you can just do all of that. I mean, I probably would end up just doing everything as much as possible, just to kind of like I suppose milk the entire experience to the maximum. Um,
I'm trying to think of instances where we did both sides. We kind of did this build up. Like we had Cobra protagonists and we had Joe protagonists. And to be honest, I think we were fairly one-sided.
Yeah, it wasn't often you really got to see both sides of, I suppose, the argument, or at least both sides of the war equally. It's usually, yeah, we would focus on one or the other side.
Though I do recall pissing Elle off something awful when I did try and split focus. Like, we'd focus on the progress of one team, and then I'd be like, okay, guys, let's move over to where the other guys are at and move them forward, so that ultimately they can all meet together in the battle royale. But in order to do that, I wanted to kind of build up our sympathies for all the sides. And I think there was a third faction. There was probably like a group of Russians or something an October Guard kind of element. But yeah, those things were always a little bit too fractious. Like, he wanted one focus, and he was a kind of a dominant like you and I were pretty flexible on how we played, but he was like, no, I want my protagonist, I want him to always be front and center, the hero shot. Everyone else is just a pop-up target to him, basically. Thanks, Al.
It's
I'm
true. It's
John
true.
Matrix. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it does lend more towards, I suppose, a video game way of playing. I mean, where you are the focus the whole time. There isn't much a shift away from who you are and what you're doing to kind of see what everyone else is doing. So I kind of get where you came from, but I mean, I think the way that we would mainly do it was more cinematic. You kind of did get to see what everyone was doing. You kind of cinematic and story, I suppose. I mean, it kind of makes the story more complex if you get to see different sides of what's actually going down.
I blame Larry Harmer's style of storytelling. He did like to kind of split focus. Sometimes you'd only spend one page with a group and then flip back to another group. And I know he made a showpiece of that in Triple Play, where he had the DEF, the Eco Warriors, and a third faction. I'm blanking on it now, but basically, yeah, it was like 3 stories, and each page would further, they'd rotate. A plot, B plot, and C plot would each get a page and then cycle back to A. That got perhaps a little bit tedious for my liking, but like I think back to All the Ships at Sea, where you've got Snake Eyes and Scarlets on the Staten Island ferry fighting Wade Collins. You've got Torpedo and Snowjob at the atoll fighting Cobra Morays. And you've got Doc and Tripwire and Deep Six and Cutter on the Jane fighting off a pair of sea rattlers. I hope this is ringing some bells for you guys. But, it was constantly cutting and intercutting. And it's very filmic. And he's able to successfully translate that to the comic book page. So I guess we tried to do that with our toys. But instead of like it being a clean cut as you would in a film or a page turn with a comic book, we had to like get up off the ground, walk over to that other part of the house, sit ourselves down, reacquaint ourselves with who had who, and then continue.
And here we go.
It was. Yeah. Anyway, I know I've spoken a lot, but I'm about to speak some more. Playtime this past 2 weeks was blissful. The only problem I had was, well, apart from some practical issues, which I'll get into in a bit, was the fact that I was alone. The fact that I didn't have... There were actually surprises, but not the kind of left turns that you get when you co-author something with someone else. So that's, my one great sadness is that I had to do this on my own. But in spite of having not played out a narrative in what must be easily like 3, 4, 5 years, I don't know, man. The years just tumble. I'm trying to think back to what the last time... Like, it was probably what you and I played, Rob, after watching Civil War. Like, you and I played with our Marvel action figures a bit.
Yeah, we did. We went crazy that night.
We did. It was a good night, but it was like the last night. And I remember Alistair and you and I playing with... This is the first time Marauder Inc. offered like 4-inch figures. It's as far back as that. And this is on the eve of like Alistair getting married. He was like his last hurrah. He's going to come around and we're going to play. Like, that was the last time the 3 of us played together. So that was ages ago. So yeah, the rest of it has been me rolling a camera and, one of you guys manipulating a toy while I did that. Does that count?
It does.
It's certainly a nice way to share our playtimes with the world, but it's not raw playtime. You're constantly fiddling and worrying about where the camera's positioned, because you can't just wind up shooting a pair of meaty paws awkwardly fiddling around with this figure. Yeah, that's no good. Paul, you were saying something?
No, I was going to say, I think that totally counts. Because, you're still playing with the toys. They're not sitting on your shelf gathering dust or, looking good in your display room. They're actually out. They're working.
Well, all my toys are always going to be working. My way of keeping my toys from getting dusty is to never let them gather dust. They are always seeing some play use. Well, aside from the ones that are now 8 time zones away.
Also, like, and Steve, sorry, man.
Play
Just
motion
before
is hard work, Paul. Play motion.
It is hard work. It is hard work. Yeah, play motion puts the hard in play. Anyway,
Okay.
just before you get into your epic story, I just wanted to just also like mention that there's been a lot of times that, like last week when you mentioned it, I didn't have so much of a narrative, or I didn't have as much of a narrative, as much as I was actually just enjoying having a few like guys on my desk or whatever's shooting at each other and hiding behind cover, and you can get quite carried away just doing that without having much of a story as well. And that was also kind of fun because it also just takes you out of things. And when you get into a little bit of a flow state, you're in there. At one point, I even had I definitely had a GI Joe. I mean, I have Orko from He-Man. So I also had like one situation where I was just playing off this whole idea of like, Orko's like, no, who are these invaders? And then I had a whole bunch of and my Cobra Viper and Norga Hyde like shooting at him, like just for shits and giggles. So I mean, there's also something to be said for like sort of an aimless play as well. Just enjoying just having the stuff on your table and just going with that, just sort of freestyling. There's not much of a narrative. You're just going for it.
I see your point, Paul, and absolutely, that is valid. That is certainly a way to enjoy your toys that is active, and they're not sitting on the shelf being admired, and you're not aimlessly scrolling eBay, in the pursuit of acquiring more. Yeah, you treasuring what you have, which is so vital, so vital. I mean, if all that there is to collecting is just being a consumer, like where's the enjoyment? The enjoyment is like receiving something in the mail, and that's the pinnacle of your enjoyment. It's like, yes, the box is here, I have it, and then it all is kind of a downhill from there. It's unfortunate, but I acknowledge that is a reality of being an adult and being a collector. It's like you don't have the allowance and the time, and you don't give yourself the opportunity to enjoy sometimes. But I endeavored to create a narrative because I didn't just want it to be me and desk fiddles. I forced myself, because it is hard. It is not easy to string together a narrative, to speak these monologues and give your characters voice and move them physically through a space in a realistic way, as opposed to just like, he's in the palm of my hand and now he's on top of the bookshelf, and like, to make a geography out of, I'm not saying building physical sets, but to like, if there's a fire escape outside a building, I'm miming my figure through all the motions, and there is enormous satisfaction to be had in that. That said, my weeks of playing has not followed one storyline. It has been a total smorgasbord of like impulses. Because I've got quite an eclectic mix of characters that span the different eras of the O-Ring, ARL run. Like, I've had like stuff that's set in 82, 83. I've had stuff that's set in the 90s, and I've thoroughly enjoyed jumping around and not being too beholden to like strict RPG rules, that I'm kind of like following my protagonists through each situation and just staying on them. And like everything, like doing the briefing, and then doing the mission, then doing the debrief, and then doing the rack time back at base. Like that, there's enormous satisfaction in doing that, but I find that comes from having interactions with a second or third player. Because then you catch yourself off guards a little bit more. I was in it for like the highlights reel, guys. And the highs got pretty high. I had to start out cold open in a safe house with my man Shockwave and your man Scoop, Robbie.
Hey.
Shockwave is antsy. He's like, we gotta move, Scoop. We gotta go now. Like, we've hung back way too long. We're gonna be late for the rendezvous. Scoop is like, just give me another minute. I need to make this upload. He's got his satellite dish, and he's currently uploading vital information. He can't move the transmission or sever the connection now. Like, he's got to wait. So Shockwave goes downstairs, he checks on their escape vehicle, the Desert Fox 6-wheel drive, of course, and then kind of gets back upstairs and he's like, come on, Scoop, now or never. Checks his weapons, 2 pistols, silenced SMG, knife in the back, and Scoop's like, yes, okay, we can go. Backpack on, camera attached to the backpack, they race downstairs, get in the Desert Fox, Scoop rolls up the roller blind, and they're off. Now, I decided to engineer a little bit of tension between these characters. Turns out, in their civilian life, because, Shockwave was a cop, Scoop was a journalist, like, they had some prior dealings. Scoop did some investigative reporting and managed to kind of bring some scandal, some heat down on one of Shockwave's superiors. A good man, a family man, according to good old Jason Ferrier, but wound up ending his career. So, like, there's this history between them. They now are allies and comrades in arms, and they trust each other with their lives. But, as I say, in their civilian life, they've got this little frisson. Anyways, they're heading to their next location. Shockwave has done the drive a number of times that afternoon. He knows the route. He doesn't have the lights on. He's going through the jungle track, and this is where the practicalities of playing with these ancient toys come down on you like a ton of bricks. Because what happens to my Desert Fox? Snags something, some rough terrain, and the steering rack snaps. Lame, so lame. I mean, they built Desert Foxes for a good time and not a long time. Like, it's definitely that design aesthetic that, like, Hasbro were like, yeah, this is functional, it's good, moving on. Whereas, I think, like, in the earlier 80s, they would have been like, but will it last? Is this going to be durable enough? Anyway, so that kind of ended my game on night 1. Because I was a bit down about that. Night 2 was me trying to fix it. And dare I say, I have engineered a fix that is better than what Hasbro did, but it's still not quite up to snuff. Like, I want the steering rack to be, like, firm. And, like, the Desert Fox is one of those vehicles that, like, invariably will have a bit of a mouth to it. Like, if you have the front clipped in nice and firmly, like, the back sometimes comes up a bit, or the middle section of the vehicle comes up a bit. So it's difficult to get it to be all flush. But yeah, I'm not too disenchanted with my fix. I basically put 2 metal rods, one in front, one in behind, and set up a kind of a steering rack that way that pushes and pulls the wheels adequately. But yeah, like, it's never going to be great. I prefer those wheels to just be fixed in a forward position. We didn't need steerable front wheels on most of these vehicles. Anyways, night 3, I was sick.
Oh no.
And in my sick adult mind, that's when I had my Tiger Force misadventure, if you recall from last episode.
Yes.
Basically, I bought a Tiger Force. There were 3 Tiger Force outpacks on offer, and I picked the dud of the lot. I think it's still on its way to me, and I should have just picked the other ones, but whatever. As I say, I was sick and tired and not playing toys that night. Day 4, I had a bit of time in the afternoon to myself, and I got to play at that magical hour that we spoke about, Rob, like dusk, which is just the best. When the day is kind of cooling down, because that's another thing you have to worry about in North Queensland. Like, man, the compulsion to play in the nude is always pretty high because you are sweating all the time. And, like, yeah, you can't really crank the AC when you're moving indoors, outdoors, indoors, outdoors. We got a comment we want to highlight. Darren Cobb, once again, with Shockwave racing through the night. Scoop, I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
Mind killer.
Very, very good.
It is the little
Mind
death.
killer. Jeez. We're back with the Dune.
Sorry, dudes.
Do it, dude.
I'm so glad Darren's in my bus with this one.
It's Dune all week. What would be our theme tune then?
Dune, 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 Dune. Sorry, carry on. As per the 1984 movie and
Dude.
Toto score. Anyway.
Points for remembering. Fuck, it's awesome. Anyway, so day 4, I took the Locust out for a spin. Yeah, like I say, it was quite an eclectic week. So Major Storm strolls up to his whirly bird. This is the initial release, the 1990 Brown release, not the general release. And he fires that puppy up. It's got several targets. It's going for an attack run. It has a convoy to take out. Uses its laser cannons. Then it has to bomb a structure. So it uses the sort of a dumb firing weapons. And then finally, an armored vehicle needs to be taken out. So it fires the missiles. But it in turn is taken out by Voltar on the rocket sled. Cobra rocket sled. Now, this brings me to an interesting point. Like, to our adult brain, we read the file card and we know that Voltar is Destro's general. And knowing what we know about high-ranking officers, they are not the kind of guys to be the tip of the spear, ever.
Mm-hmm.
They're the kind of high-value targets that you keep far in the rear under an armored bunker and protected well at all times. Like, they are big deals. When they're moving, they have extra security. They have planned itineraries. They do not hop on board highly volatile one-man interceptor rocket craft and take out an attacking helicopter. But to the child in us, Voltar being Destro's general and having that sweet-ass red optic in his gold helmet means that he's like some kind of super killer warlord, and he absolutely would be the tip of the spear. He's like Destro's #1 fighting man, you know? do you guys agree? Like, to a child, your value of the character is not stored up in how much they need to be protected, but actually how many lives they would take, you know?
Yeah,
if you
he's
flung
a
them
rock
into
star,
combat.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just looks really awesome. And he's got an amazing vehicle. He comes with that vehicle, so of course you got to put him out there.
He doesn't, but the advertising certainly in Europe made him and the rocket sled very synonymous. Like, I can distinctly remember a catalog that I fawned over a lot. The same catalog that introduced me to Tiger Force Outback, incidentally. But it had Voltar on the rocket sled. And then, if I'm remembering correctly, I think so did the card art that had Voltar kind of scooting along the desert floor on the rocket sled. So yeah, there's definitely precedent for him being the operator of this extremely deadly craft. Deadly to the operator, I mean. But hey, I couldn't give a shit. I just enjoyed tearing through the sky and absolutely mincing a, relatively slow-moving GI Joe target. It was too easy, man.
So it sounds like you had a lot of fun just getting like random stuff getting going. There wasn't like a overarching story, which I think you said at the front there wasn't.
Well, I got as close to an overarching story over the next 2 nights because my Desert Fox was now repaired and better than ever. It was time to continue that story because I felt like a bit cheated that I didn't get to a kind of a conclusive point. It turns out Shockwave and Scoop were on their way to the next safe house, where none other than fellow teammate Hardball is lying low. Now, Hardball has basically what they are in this environment to get. And just to set the scene, in my imagination, this is kind of a G.I. Joe animated series kind of world, in that you had this urban environment that was quite clearly Cobra controlled. So it was like, I think, Enterprise City in Pyramid of Darkness, where like there's this palpable like Cobra underbelly, and like their Cobra agents mingling, freely on the surface as well. So GI Joe is very much like having to be very secretive within this environment. It's something that doesn't really gel with the real world, because on how could an enormous metropolitan area be totally Cobra? It just wouldn't happen in domestic United States, or at least I don't think so. How could it?
Listen.
They did it with Springfield, but that was like a town, and they did it with Millville and Brocker Beach, but that was using brainwashing. Here we've got like an actual city that is like totally Cobra'd, Cobra sympathetic.
I think it's quite realistic considering that Elon Musk can now buy our entire country, as of last week, and still actually,
Really?
and it wouldn't really hurt him. It would be like me buying a proton pack. It would suck at first,
lesser of
but it'll
two
be okay.
evils. Is it better for us to be owned by China or by Elon Musk? Drop down into the comments and let us know.
Yeah, sci-fi says neither.
Hey, at least Muskie's a South African, isn't he? Well, he was.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
he's got a
yeah.
lot of resentment, man. Like he was bullied a lot and stuff in school, so I don't know.
Yeah, but that's you Joburgers. I mean, he has nothing against Cape Town, I'm sure.
It's got nothing to do with Joe Burgers. He's from Pretoria, man. And those guys, they can be rough.
Eesh, crazy talk. All right, that's news to me, man. So yeah, we catch up with Hardball, and he's got a device.
Hardball,
Yes.
that's awesome. Sorry.
Yeah, man. Well,
Yeah.
about time. Like Team 88 for the win. He's got. Well, I used Hit and Run's duffel bag. It's a device, and it's got an access key, and they're both being stored in the bag. Anyways, they bundle into the Desert Fox, and Hardball's already like, scooch up, Shockwave. You ain't driving this beast. I am. So Shockwave reluctantly gets on the gun, and good thing he does, because as soon as they pull out, they get buzzed by the Dreadnoks in the Thunder Machine.
Awesome.
It's some
Like-
mean highway pursuit action, guys. Like this is primo action stuff, and like I didn't want it to be over too soon, so I kind of gimped it that for whatever reason Shockwave can't use the the AA gun on the Desert Fox, and the Dreadnoks have been tasked with getting this device back, so they're not about to drill it with the Gatling guns. So it's like small arms fire. Shockwave's popping off with his pistol and his SMG and handing them to Scoop to reload, which I thought was a neat little nod to T2. And Zanzibar's leaning out of the Thunder Machine, firing his pistol. So just great like exchange of fire. The Hardball does some pretty slick maneuvers, but unfortunately, when you are being rammed by a jet-powered Mad Max-style vehicle, yeah, he got rammed off the road, rolled the car a couple of times, and came to rest. The Dreadnoks sidle up to this vehicle and notice that they counted 3 occupants, but there was only 2. Obviously, one of them didn't strap in, and that was Shockwave. And of course, he survived rolling a couple of times and manages to gather himself enough to break some skulls. He corners the Dreadnoks and, with his superior hand-to-hand combat skills, manages to bring Thrasher and Zanzibar to their knees. So the 3 Joes pile into the Thunder Machine, which they can actually do. I managed to jam the 3 of them into the Thunder Machine. Scoop was on Hardball's lap. And of course, Scoop's radio gets totaled in the crash, so they can't call in. They have to just stick to the prearranged rendezvous point. So they pile into the Thunder Machine, and off they go. But this whole scene has been observed from the rooftops. There's a third player. Who do you think it might be, guys? I didn't actually do any crossover. I didn't do any crossover, at least not yet. But here's a hint. Rounds out the 3 avatars on our YouTube presentation.
It is the shadow that storms.
The Shadow before the storm. Yeah, man. Storm Shadow version 2, of course, is tracking them. Now, the third night of this epic, and sort of I rounded out that evening's play by doing some very sort of heightened, cartoony platforming, basically. Like, there's nothing more fun than doing ninja run, ninja grapple, ninja, archery maneuver a la Hawkeye, and swinging across buildings. Like, that stuff didn't fly too much in our playtime, Rob, but when it did, we kind of embraced it. Like, if we all had ninjas, we could all suddenly scale walls, move at lightning speeds, basically do like Jedi tricks and shit.
Yeah, it was a bit self-indulgent if you had like one person doing that and the rest of the people are kind of like, wait for us to catch up, he's got to climb up these steps here and...
One more time just for us kids in the back.
But let me tell you, there's nothing more fun.
Staying alive. Sorry.
There's nothing more fun than like imbuing these figures with next to superhuman prowess, like physical prowess. All of a sudden, like your soldier toy takes on a new dimension of play, a new kind of kineticism. Like they can move so much better than just like, slogging and marching and holding a gun. Like there's so much more you can do with a 3 3/4 inch Joe. And so this is why the ninjas really unlocked that potential. And why I, to this day, am a huge pundit for Ninja Force. Because all of a sudden you had the license to do these superhuman kinds of battles. And they are such an indulgence, but they are such fun. So yes, the more kind of dogmatic military play is something we did a lot of. But every once in a while, we gave ourselves the freedom to do that stuff. And so good. Anyways, he comes to rest overhead this alley where they've parked the Thunder Machine. And they've gone inside, like kind of broken into an office building. And Shockwave's like, okay, guys, hole up here. See if you can find some medical supplies to patch up Scoop's head. I'm going to try and ditch this vehicle because it is hella conspicuous. We can't leave this parked on the street. So Shockwave tears off. Unfortunately, leaving the other two as a prime target for Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow kind of reels himself down through a skylight and scoops up the bag while Hardball is he's in a kitchen looking for a first aid kit, which he manages to find, comes back, starts patching up Scoop, and he's like, yo, Scoop, where's the bag? Scoop's like, I don't know. Didn't you take it with you? Oh, shit. Patch yourself up, Scoop. Hardball draws his sidearm and he tears around this place. Can't find anything. Then they notice the open skylights. He charges up the fire escape outside and he finds his quarry. Storm Shadow is rifling through the bag on the rooftop. And Hardball is like, shoot first and ask questions later. He unloads on his 9mm. I used Red Dog's gun. Beautiful gun. I love giving that to Hardball because he's got a holster but no sidearm, and he's got great like cut-off gloves. It's just look, it's a good look. Trust me, if you are at a loss for like giving Hardball a secondary weapon, you couldn't go far wrong than using Hardball's piece. Anywho, he unloads. Storm Shadow takes cover behind like I suppose it must be a vent or something. And the bag is now out in the open. It's between these two. Before he can reload, Storm Shadow's making a run for grabbing the bag, so Hardball charges at it, and they get into fisticuffs. Now, this is something that I also wanted to kind of play out, that like, a G.I. Joe is no chump in the hand-to-hand combat stakes. You know, if you are an infantryman in Joe, you are top of your class, man. So I do like the idea of it being a fair matchup, but when the other guy has knives and swords on his person, it's pretty evident that Storm Shadow is pulling his punches. So while the combat is fierce and kind of evenly matched, like Storm Shadow clearly doesn't want to kill a Joe. He doesn't want Joe blood on his hands, particularly since he wants to use this bag as a bargaining tool for his imminent defection. But he doesn't get the bag. Hardball is able to fend him off. He does, however, come away with the key, and he calls it even Stevens. Hardball gets the bag downstairs. Shockwave gets back. He's like, "What the hell, dude? I heard gunshots as I was making my way here. Do you want to bring every Cobra down on us?" And he's like, "Dude, try to make off with the device, but I managed to, put the hurt on him." However, they go through the bag and the key's been taken. Shit. Anyways, that's where I left that particular thread. I imagine they get to their prearranged pickup points. They make the pickup, and meanwhile, Hawk gets an anonymous call from a certain Tommy Arashikage that the device is useless to you unless you let me come in from the cold. So let's make a deal.
Sounds like
dude.
a classic Steven story. Like this.
Is it?
Yeah,
I think so. It feels like something we would have played out.
it's great that you're using Hardball as well. I feel like he's such an underappreciated character, actually. And
It's a very satisfying figure to handle. Like, as I say, the cut-off gloves, great for him being, wielding a pistol. I didn't use his bloop gun. I decided, let's steer clear from doing the stereotypical thing with this guy. Let's make him, smooth talking. Like he's good behind the wheel, but he's also good in a fight. Like that's his vibe. There's a little bit of tension between him and Shockwave because they both have caps. No, I'm kidding. It came up front when it was like get out of the driving seat, Shockwave. You're not fooling anyone. You're good at kicking doors down, but if it's time to burn rubber, it's all me. Hardball's a great figure to play with if you can just look past the baseball shirt.
yeah, it's weird that's never bothered me. I don't know why. Anyway,
It might bother you if I was also playing in an urban setting. If he was slogging through the jungle, it might have been tougher. This is an urban setting, largely at night in dimly lit environments, which is an important factor, let me tell you, and it comes up in a future game, in fact. I also did a little bit of side play with recoil and the scuba pack because I was so damn hot. I decided to throw myself in the pool, and recoil, it's tough to find figures that fit that motorized action pack or vehicle pack nicely. It's a difficult one. Hit and Run was my first go-to, and he's a bit the backpack doesn't seat deep enough. Low Lights is actually a good pick, but also just not quite deep enough. I find Recoil is the guy, and the flippers work pretty nicely on him too.
oh cool.
Anywho, I decided to do some indulgence with the Havoc the next night.
The Havoc.
Because I watched this incredible clip shared to me by Zazel Phoenix.
The one I put on Facebook.
Oh, was it you? Okay.
It was me.
Oh, that's right. Well, then all credit to you, dude.
Take that, Zaz.
A one-man quadcopter just reminded me of the coolest feature of that weird vehicle, the Havoc, and that's the deployable one-man hovercraft. So I wanted to do a test, basically an equipment test for the Havoc with Sci-Fi using his optics to guide the Havoc missiles to a prearranged target. So they board this thing. Sneak peek is why are we doing this at night? Equipment tests are supposed to happen during the day. So that sets up a bit of tension with him and Sci-Fi, because Sci-Fi's I put it up to the higher ups and they rubber stamped it. So we're setting out at 11 o'clock at night. Suck it, Sneak peek. And I got to use my Steel Brigade guy for the first time. He was in the gun seat on the Havoc. A man of few words, as it turns out, but a bit of a checkered past, which might come up in a bit. Anyways, so it was just fun having these guys driving out to the test site. A common trope, or one that I enjoyed playing out, Rob, as you might recall, is long drives. Because a lot of military life, so I believe, is just the logistics. You are oftentimes just en route to a base, or en route back home, or en route to a target. You are constantly moving. And so these little vignettes that play out amongst the characters are sometimes very compelling, and always, sometimes are a stronger draw than the action itself. Anyways, it was a
It's cool.
successful equipment test, and I know that's blowing everyone's ears off because that's like so exciting. But yeah, sci-fi, yeah, the missiles all hit target quite admirably, even at night, and it was just fun to swoop sci-fi around in that hovercraft.
Oh man, that thing's a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of the Havoc. Ever since Rob got his when we were in the States, and I just, oof, beautiful toy that I really dig it. Speaking of Rob and Scoop, actually, I got Scoop on my desk as well. Because I pulled them out, when we were planning to do this. I thought, okay, I'd make sure I've got the main Gunana. I have, Scoop, Rob. I'll have Scoop, Shockwave, and Storm Shadow at hand, to mess around with. And I know that you may have mentioned this detail before, Steve, but I just want to mention it again on the show. It's so cool how Scoop's holster on his left leg doesn't have a gun in it, to imply that his gun has been drawn. I think that's so cool.
And that he's left-handed, or
Yes.
or he favors the camera. So the camera's in his dominant hand, and his holster with his hush puppy is on the left.
It's just so cool. Like, it's just one of those things. Another observation I'd like to make about Scoop. We have a Berg Force member. His name is Troy. And I can't help but feel that the Scoop head sculpt is is a pretty good likeness for Troy. So, Troy, if you're listening, go and grab yourself a Scoop figure, hold it up, to your wife and your kids, and ask them, "Who's this? Who this?"
I get the feeling they probably will be like, there needs to be a little bit more salt in that pepper. But yeah, look, the texture on Scoop's head sculpt is terrific. The hair is really nice, and we all know Troy's got a fabulous head of hair, so points there,
man.
brother.
Sweet. No, I just had to yeah.
I'm going to shout out fellow podcasters from Anything Joe's, who did the most excellent review of a little town called Springfield, issue number 10, GI Joe ARA, and I devoured that podcast during the day, and I felt inspired. I was like, the protagonists are Scarlet, Snake Eyes, and Zap. These are 3 1.5 swivel arm figures that I currently have in my possession right now. So if I focused in the story just a little bit tighter and stayed with them, didn't use Hawk and those boys, or Grunts and Flash and the other teams that were kind of encroaching in on this Cobra nerve center in Manhattan, if I just stayed with these 3, I can play out this story. So as a challenge, I decided, let me play out an issue of the G.I. Joe comic as best I can from memory. I'm not going to be referencing the comic book as I play. Let me just see if I can remember the action beats, the story beats. Maybe if I don't remember them, I'll fill in with some of my own. And I think, I haven't reread the issue, but just going off my memories of the podcast review, I think I pulled it off, guys. Like everything from them getting captured to Snake Eyes winding up in Dr. Venom's brainwave scanner, them breaking, Snake Eyes breaking out by stopping his heart. The other 2, the only thing I didn't play out was Zap and Scarlet winding up in that sort of arcade of horrors, where all the sort of light guns and stuff are actual laser weapons. But I did have them chucked into a cell with Billy. Billy, played by Luke Skywalker. But Luke Skywalker
How appropriate.
It's a pretty why is it appropriate, Rob?
Oh no, wait, he's not missing his hand, he's missing his leg, damn it. But still, he's missing something.
You'll find that the Star Wars action figure scaling is so film accurate that Luke is really small. So he actually comes in a fair bit shorter than an O-Ring Joe. So that kind of slightly diminutive size, I mean, okay, Billy was a kid, not an adolescent. when they first meet him. But it kind of read adequately enough. And hey, it was in the dark, so you can kind of get away with that. But okay, so I did away with the arcade and basically kind of did a shortcut that Scarlet and Zap and Billy were being interred in Dr. Venom's like HQ. So they just had to fight their way to where Snake Eyes was being brainwave scanned, but of course Snake Eyes has freed himself at that point. And so they make a run for it, wind up at the municipal airport, and board a plane, and the rest plays out like the comic book. Billy decides to stay behind because of his family? I don't know about that. I mean, this is Cobra Commander's son after all, and his mother's a piece of shit too, so it must be like extended family. Anyways. So Scarlet and Zap and Snake Eyes board the plane, and there's a Cobra pilot, and the Cobra pilot's like, ha ha ha, you guys were drugged when you came here, you don't know where you're going, so I could fly you anywhere. And then meanwhile he pulls a pistol out of his helmet? Anyways, tries to shoot Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes totally drills him in his seat and manages to take out all the plane's instruments, of course. Total action movie trope there. Anyways, Zap manages to put them down over the ocean and bail out so that the plane doesn't do any damage to a city that they arrive in. And I didn't do the closing scene, the denouement with the Marvel Comics convention and then landing on a guy dressed in a Hulk costume. I just kind of left it there. In fact, this is where I kind of made an addition to the story in that they parachute down in the middle of nowhere. Because they are in the middle of nowhere. They don't know where they are. They're kind of flown through a storm. And so they start hiking towards a settlement, and they're like, what if that's a Cobra settlement? What if it's a bunch of Cobra sympathizers? And we just rocked up, quite evidently, GI Joe agents on the run. Like, this could be a very dangerous situation. And that was my kind of to-be-continued point. So maybe I'll pick that up. Who knows?
You got through so
And
many cool stories. Damn, dude.
I
Sorry.
got one more. One more.
interrupted.
One more. Then we
But
can get
wait,
out of here.
kids.
No. Yes. My final
There's more.
my final playtime was perhaps the most organic of all. I took up Eco Warrior. I was going to use version 4 Snake Eyes with the neon gun and the spring fire rocket launcher grapple hook in order to like do some more of that kinetic ninja kind of action. I used to enjoy playing with it, just having him swinging from place to place when I was a child. I can recall using that figure when my dad had pitched a tent. We'd gone camping, and so like the tent poles and various guy lines and stuff made for great zip lines and things for him to cling to and swing from and stuff. But no, I dropped Snake Eyes in favor of Eco Warriors Flint.
Hey, it's one of my favorites.
You know,
That's a cool toy.
I had him armed with his water gun, helmet, his pump, which is an oversized shotgun, futuristic thing, which I've always had a fondness for, and bail out of an aircraft and like shoot shit on the way down. I put the Doom 2 soundtrack in my earphones, and I just assaulted on like the Toxo Viper like chem lab. Like it was a fight through the air, landing on the ground, backed up by ozone and clean sweep. A fight approaching through the jungle and sort of this wasteland to the factory, like climbing up into the factory, jumping, diving, rolling, sliding down the bonnet of my wife's car, laying waste to Toxo Vipers, Sludge Vipers, septic tanks, Toxo zombies, these kind of hordes crawling up on him. He was using, the anti-tox gun. He was using the pump-action shotgun with explosive rounds. The one thing I wish he came with is a short-range weapon like a knife. That would have been a game changer. Like, it's the one element of his arsenal that he needs. So you can imagine, guys, this was very much a adrenaline-fueled, like Doom-style Like, I didn't take my hand off the shift key kind of fight. I was strafing around, jumping around, moving. You know, I think we can all have that soundtrack in our minds right now. Like, you know,
Yeah.
awesome. Of course, it wound up in the pool. I don't think his color change action works anymore. But like, that's when like I think it was like eels and their robotic sharks were trying to attack him, and that's where I wanted the sword or knife or something, just like an energy blade, anything like 90s and garish and just extreme. So I should have decked him out with some Ninja Force weapons maybe, but dudes, that was the best. It was like a mixture of Doom and the rail shooting GI Joe arcade game and a lot of platforming, and of course the only toy I had in my hands was the flint. Everything else was furnished by my mind, but I was totally swept up in it. Like, I don't have a septic tank here, and I don't have my Toxo zombie here. Like, those toys are, they're just phantoms. But just having that laser focus on my guy in my paw and taking him on this epic action adventure, like, just imbuing him with this God of War level prowess. Like, oh man, he was the Doom guy. He was the Marine. He was just wading through endless hordes and laying waste to structures and tanks and buildings and bad guys. Cesspool, however, got off clean. He was nowhere to be seen. But yeah, man, mission accomplished. Advantage Eco Warriors. And last night I was at a Halloween party, so I was drunk and I couldn't play. The end.
Well, I think often, yeah, it was the times when you could really suspend, your suspension of what's it? That thing.
Disbelief.
Where your imagination just completely take over, that you can actually just really enjoy yourself. And it sounds like by the end of the week you really were just completely giving yourself over to your imagination.
I have not done any work on the channel in 2 weeks. This has been my solitary focus. I mean, outside of publishing the podcast and doing the odd promo work for that. But, so I don't know if I can keep this up. Like, I'd love to finish out a project that Troy and I are working on, in fact. And it's shaping up to be a goodie, so I really do want to, put in the hours. But, guys, I'm having the time of my life. I mean,
Well, that's fantastic.
it'd be nice if I had some friends, but
Hey.
as far as refining the love for creating narratives and actually playing them out, because that's the hardest step to take, man. To actually just give voice to the voices in your heads, like externalize this stuff. It is enough to play them out in your minds, and that is wonderful. But to actually get down in the grass and play, whoa. Yeah. No regrets, man. This has been terrific. But guess what,
making that
guys?
time for yourself is so good, psychologically. Yeah. Guess what? What did you say? What are you telling us?
Troy's back in the mix, man. He's got a Postbox the Pit question for us to close out the show on, and here it
sweet.
is. Yeah, very sweet.
I got my assignment, fellas. It looks like some Cobra thugs are harassing some villagers. My mission is to train them up so they can defend themselves against Cobra. Who do you think I should bring with me on this mission?
Okay, so Falcon is in country and doing what Falcon does, working with the locals to try and organize some resistance. Let's do one pick each. So we're going to make this a 4-man team. In addition to Falcon, who the best backups?
I'm gonna have to say Outback. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but you gotta say it. I mean, he's the wilderness expert. He's definitely going to be helping immeasurably to kind of prepare these people for whatever's coming their way.
Fair enough, but don't you think the locals are already adept at surviving in that environment? Like, wouldn't Outback just... He'd be learning from them.
Exactly. and together they come up with like completely brand new ideas because they're kind of like working off each other so well.
Nice. Sorry, Rob. I don't mean to poo-poo your ideas straight off the
No,
bat.
no,
I'm just,
absolutely not.
I just always like offering the contrasting opinion. That's the debater in me.
absolutely no, but I think
Mass debater.
that they work. Well, they work off each other. I mean, their approaches can't be identical. I mean, they have different ways of approaching things, but together, with their knowledge, they can kind of come up with new things. Or
Alright.
I don't know. He was just the first one that came to mind.
I think Falcon is a language expert, so presumably he can speak. Well, this is regional. Who knows where they are? Maybe the language is a big barrier, or maybe everyone in this particular region speaks English, so no problem there. But like my first thought is someone like Breaker, who is a language expert, speaks multiple different languages and dialects, but maybe he's not so good on the survivalist stuff. But yeah, my first thought always runs to an interpreter. Someone like
Well, that's
Dusty,
pretty smart. I mean,
or-
it would make communication between Falcon and the locals much easier. They can kind of
so who are
coordinate
language
a lot
guys?
better.
Our language guys are Breaker, Stalker, Duke in sort of Southeast Asian languages. And I'm blanking. Crap. Oh, Dusty, yeah. Dusty's second file card, his 1991 version, speaks of his Middle Eastern dialect proficiencies. So yeah, he's a lot more than just a desert trooper. He is. Oh, I think Lady J. Lady J would be a great language expert too.
Yeah, that's another one.
You've got some options that I would gravitate towards. And Paul, what do you prioritize, man?
For me, it's just if it's meant to be survival or protecting a village, I prioritize things like improvising, using your environment to improvise. So, for me, like my choices would have been in no particular order. It would have been Stalker, Tunnel Rat, Outback, and Recondo, because not Recondo, Spirit actually. And the reason for that is because Stalker, you guys mentioned the language side of him, but also he's used to being in that kind of situation. He cut his teeth in that kind of battle. He knows how to work that kind of land. Tunnel Rat, he's a tunnel rat, right? But more importantly, explosive expert. And I'm pretty sure he's proficient. I feel that he's proficient in things like booby traps and all that, because that comes with the knowledge that you need for explosives removal. And Spirit, the whole tracking element to Spirit, the fact that he's got a good understanding of the land, and also he's just culturally, not culturally, but I'm scared of saying spiritual, but there's an esoteric side to Spirit where he understands different cultural eccentricities. I feel he's sensitive to that kind of thing, which means I think he would be more endearing to the local guys. He would be like the heart. He would be able to earn their trust, and then of course, and then Outback, of course, because Outback, you got everything that comes. Yeah, so that would be my. Yeah.
Gaz is like Recondo, outstanding. Tetsuo is like Outback, fantastic choice. And Darren rounds us out with a foursome: Falcon, Recondo, Tripwire, and Beachhead.
Hey,
Man,
cool.
I feel like you can't go wrong. Beachhead will be around to just remind everyone that no matter where you come from, BO is BO.
But cool shout out for Tripwire. I mean, there's a character that gets almost no love, so nice.
True. Yeah. I mean, particularly in rural combat environments, the devastation wrought by landmines is hardcore. And if Cobra's playing dirty, absolutely, you need someone like Tripwire. And also, he's relatable because he's pretty flawed, isn't he?
It's clumsy. He's super clumsy.
Yep. Guys, this has been a bumper session of me just jawing about playing with toys, and I'm loving it. I might make a segment out of this, but like I talk enough in these episodes. Honestly, as much as I'd love to keep up the fun and keep this going, which I will. You can be rest assured I will. Maybe I'll deliver a sizzle reel or a highlights package week to week. Well, I don't know. We'll see if there's demand for it. Let us know in the comments below. Also, let us know who you'd like to have Falcon get backed up by on the Joe team. Or maybe a Cobra. Maybe he's made friends with Zartan. As always, thanks to the Berg Force for joining us in the comments thread. It's wonderful to have you guys. If you want to join the Berg Force, you can do so for the low price of $1 a month. Hey.
Hey.
I mean, is that right, Paul? Back me up, dude.
I think it's $3. You can for as low as $3 a month. Yeah.
Buy us a coffee once a month, and you too can not only attend these recording sessions live if you manage to make it to the session, because the times change all the time. Apologies once again, guys. But you then also have early access to these podcasts because they go up a full 24 hours early.
And you're supporting us. Exactly. It's awesome. It's super cool when you do it. And you will then have access to, fun little things like music and wallpapers and that kind of jazz.
Of course, you can just keep supporting us in the way that we know and love you're doing already. Just by listening,
liking,
by sharing, subscribing, all that shiz.
And just talking to us in the comments. Like, that's really awesome. I love the comments, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Always a lot of encouragement. We've got Sammy Six Toes over on Facebook, who's currently like going through our entire back catalog and dropping the odd comment here and there. He recently listened to our Shifters episode. Rob, do you remember we recorded one with Al?
Yes.
Just kind of a retrospective on that game, and he was like, "This shit's awesome." Well, I'm paraphrasing you, Sammy, but yeah, he's like, "Yeah,
this shift's really cool awesome."
Oh, I meant to ask, guys, who do you think I had a stand-in for as Dr. Venom? Because Dr. Venom action figures are like hen's teeth, but he is a canonic Cobra character and one that you need if you are to play out issue 10, a nice little town called Springfield. Who was my action figure stand-in?
I assume you had a Dr. Mindbender.
Oh, no, they are so night and day, man. Dr. Mindbender and Dr. Venom could not
be...
but
their function in the story.
No, you know what? I feel like Dr. Mindbender is like a snake oil salesman. He's all flash and no substance. All his good ideas spring from the research of Dr. Venom's, which he inherited. He managed to, and he's also got that whole like killed his own pain sensors crap. Like, he's a dentist. That's his claim to fame. He knows about pain. Anywho, Dr. Venom was very handily played by Gristle. Hey?
I forgot you had a Gristle figure. Because that makes sense. Because it looks... I was like, you'd have to have some kind of character with like a very square top head.
Look, I'll be the first to admit it's a weird choice at first blush, but in the dim lighting situation, it can be quite possible. He's got these dark shades. He's got this very toothy, like...
I speak like this. Everything goes through my teeth.
He's clenched in a way, but the Dr. Venom aspect comes in the fact that he's got this slick back hair and a slight widow's peak to his hairline. And that's classic Dr. Venom. The outfit is way off. All of a sudden, he's packing 2 knives on his chest and an eclectic mix of maroon, black, and canary yellow. But yeah, the hair is what sells it. And of course, the performance. I was firing on all cylinders that night, let me tell you.
The performance seals it.
All right, that's enough from me. Rob, you got any closing words?
I gotta say, I enjoyed this. It's been very inspirational. I hope the same for everyone else in the audience. Play with your toys. I mean, 30 minutes, even less, just have a little bit of fun. And yeah, I think it's been kind of fun to kind of live childhood through Steven's playtime. Yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. And what's next for GI Joburg?
Well, here's a thought, and if you've made it this far, congratulations. But I'm issuing a challenge. I'm throwing down the gauntlet, and I'm seeing who might pick it up. Of the GI Joe podcasters on regular rotation, and I know you're listening. I would like you guys. I would challenge you guys to play with your toys and tell us about it in your show.
Whoa.
Like,
Yeah.
I know all too well that it might be kind of an intimidating ask, especially since I've just chronicled for the last hour and a half, like, my playtimes. It doesn't have to be that. It can be 5
No.
minutes of you just saying, yeah, I picked up my Steel Brigade and he was great to play with, and yeah, I put a gun in his hand and broke his thumb off, and now I need
Now
another
I'm
Steel
sad.
Brigade at $300 a pop. Yeah, exactly. I don't know who I'm
I'm-
aping there. Perhaps just myself. But
I played with
Like-
Mint and Card Man.
yeah, look,
He lumbered through the battlefield.
I'm
Dunk.
curious to see if anyone's gonna take the bait, and if you do, good for you guys. That's fantastic. I want to hear about it, and with any luck, so do your listeners. So, challenge issued. Yo, Joe.
Play with your toys.
Joe.
Make them talk to one another. We're out, boys.
Boom.
Bye.
Bye.
See you
Ninja
next
running.
Paul, where's the thing? You gotta do the thing. You gotta do
Middle-aged
the-
ninja running.
I just had to show off that Cobra infantryman because he's so much fun, and I was taking photos of it while we were doing the podcast. While I was listening to your story, yeah, because you're inspiring me to, like, I was posing him and making him sneak around my little sound box that I have set up here.
Hey, so
And,
that explains it. It all happened live. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Good job. You know,
Cool.
I hope you understand, Paul, that the object is not to take pictures or videos and post. But anyways, I didn't write the rules. Do what you want. Have fun with your toys.
I was just loving taking shots. It was so noir. Anyway,
Yeah,
until
Rob,
next time.
You know all too well I'm a bloody tyrant with the toys. I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
But
Better believe it.
as I said, the challenge has been issued.
It creates an interesting situation. I mean, you know, without such a strong personality, I think a lot of things would not get done. So it is
It has its
appreciated.
uses. Yeah, herding cats, my boys. Hey, there were
Meow.
tense. There were tense times. JoeCon 2018.
I wanted to, but it was.
Like, Rob,
Oh.
It was worth it.
when I tell you to give me a left or a right, I need hand signals. Big hand signals. We missed
the Wendy's.
One more time. Fuck.
Hey guys, can we go to that can we go to that Pizza Hut? Hey guys, can we go to that Wendy's?
Rob's
One mistake
like-
the whole way through. Only one.
That's a White
Well-
Castle. Can we go to that?
Can't blame you guys. I mean, I didn't give you many cigarette breaks. That's
You gave us
you
enough.
may not smoke in the rental.
Well, you know, with the amount of cool drink Paul bought from that one gas station, I mean, I'm amazed we didn't stop every mile.
Yes, that cup was huge, dude.
Guys, check this cup. It's
You
as big as my
drained that cup?
torso.
And you know what?
He filled that cup.
And the thing is, when we did stop at the gas station, we filled up one of those, and then when I like found out you could refill it, like we quickly chugged it down in the parking lot, and then got another one and jumped in the car.
Long live
Good
all the
times.
sodas. All right, we are out. Foul shower. Later, guys.
Cheers, cheers.
Cheers, dudes.